I'm live. This is kind of exciting, kind of nerve-wracking. Um, I just wanted to pop on here real fast. I'm gonna drop some informational videos that I've made, and that'll explain a lot of this. But I thought it would be helpful to see a live person, and you're actually reading live things. And so as I've come on, I've run into a few things, and I've been exploring. Sorry, this distracted me. Alright, first, this is gonna be weird, but. Alright, this is my cat Jay. Got her from Humane Society. And she was rescued from an abusive situation, so she likes to be super close and super loved. So if you hear her meowing in the background, that's why. Anyway, so I was coming on here to just explain myself and explain the upcoming videos I'm about to drop and just kind of the background for it. But also to be just like, here's me, here's what I'm saying, here's the official documents, here's what happened, blah, blah, blah. And so I've just been sharing my story and talking about how hard it was to escape, an abusive situation. And so I'm just going to read some documents, and I'm a firm believer in scripture, and I believe the truth will set you free. And also, the Bible also says, by your fruits you'll know them. So here I am about to do this, and hopefully this will just clear some stuff up. I want to talk about my experience and what happened to me and all the things that have been said and whatnot. I'm just gonna read a few things that people have said, and unfortunately for me, it took this big of a binder to contain all the lies told about me and the evidence that says actually that's not true. And so I'm a little nervous, as you can tell, but I also believe in standing up for what's true and what's right, and so here I am. And so if anyone wants to watch it, you can. If you don't, that's what it is. Alright, so here I go. My name is Marciana Gillespie. I'm a survivor of domestic violence, and that actually kind of became the villain of my story, which was weird. And a ton of people said a ton of things that weren't very nice and weren't even true. So it all starts with, well, it actually doesn't all start there, but it kind of boils down to there. When my husband wrote this letter, it says, oops, let me see if I'm getting a little notification. Okay, it says here, this letter. Let me watch it. I'm sorry. I thought I had this together. Did not have it together. Okay, so it says, Dear Marciana, I wanted to tell you this in person, but I want to respect and honor where you are right now. When you are comfortable with it, I would like to apologize in person. God has been speaking to me about many things this week, and some of which I need to share with you. First, I apologize for being sexually immoral and forcing myself on you. It was selfish and showed a complete lack of concern for years as an image bearer of God. Second, I apologize for not protecting you throughout our marriage, the times that I made you feel like you were less than in front of others, instead of honoring you for who God made you to be. It is it's a sin against you and against God. Third, I apologize for caring more about my needs than yours, and you are the one that I should cherish more than any other person. I promise to do that from now on. This has made me realize how special you are and how much I've taken you for granted. I know that I have been hurtful to you, and I'm sorry. God has also shown me that though I have hurt you, He is changing me to be the husband you deserve, I can be good because he is good, and he wants and will do that in me. I would love to share this with you in person if you desire. My hope is in God, and I love you more. And it's signed him. Anyway, so that's that. It's the redacted part, that's my name. So anyway, I got this letter, and I thought, hey, I'm actually getting an apology. There's change. And it felt amazing, as I'll discuss later in a different video. It's commonly called hoovering. But I'm going to move on from that point. But that's kind of where this all starts. I got this letter. Clearly says, hey, I did this to you, it's wrong. Hey, I also talked poorly about you to other people, that's wrong. And then a bunch of other stuff that's wrong. And so I got this letter, and I tried to, forgive and do what is right. And that's kind of where it all starts for me. So, as you saw, or as you may have heard, he clearly states in this letter that he says that he was sexually immoral and that he forced himself on me throughout our marriage, and that he did not protect me throughout our marriage, and that he talks poorly about me to other people. And he writes this letter himself. He says my name at the top, he says his name at the bottom, and that's what goes on. Interestingly to note, later on in this signed affidavit that he signs himself, I just want to read what he wrote. He says, one moment. It says, I gotta flip back and forth here. There's a lot of stuff. Oh wait, also, I want to say I did report him. I brought it into special victims, blah, 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 for the Air Force. And it goes, they find that it finally gets to the U.S. versus Captain in his name. And then it says, they asked for my input. And so this is what I wrote. Because, again, I'm a firm believer in Scripture. And it's a whole... Honestly, I've tried to live my entire life according to Scripture, which is very anti-society nowadays. And part of my problem is that people could not believe that you would want to forgive someone that had done so much against you. So clearly, he had to be innocent because it wasn't that big, you're like, oh. Anyway, so I'm going to read this. It just says, memorandum for all reviewing parties from my special victim counsel. And then it says, victim input on deposition jurisdiction. It says, my client, my initials, wishes to express her views. She would like the military to take jurisdiction. And then she supports administrative action such as a letter of counseling, a letter of admonishment, and a letter of reprimand. However, my client does not wish to see the subject discharged from the military. My client does not want any judicial proceedings, and she would like to see the subject receive some sort of psychological counseling. My client is not submitting a statement and not requesting an in-person meeting. If you have questions, blah, blah, blah. So, she writes here, my special victim counsel, which is a great program in the Air Force where they give me a lawyer because of certain things. Anyway, so she writes this. So this is clearly my writing to the convening authority saying, do I want him court-martialed? No. Do I want his life destroyed? No. Do I want any of this? Also no. But it says, hey, I do believe he should get some counseling for this because he admitted it was wrong. It's technically a felony. Anyway, just get him the counseling he needs, and maybe he can be a better person in the future and help people. And so that's what I wrote. Then I have this that was written for me, because you have what says character statements and whatnot. So I want to, as just a, by your fruit you will know them kind of a thing. Let me see if I can get the screen smaller. That would be very helpful. Alright. So, let me see. Here we go. Okay. No, those are from later. Alright. Okay, this person wrote this amazing letter for me, and it says, it just says pretty much that she asked, during this whole time where he was on trial and I was doing this whole thing, she asked me for help from him, and it says that I just said, hey, I'm glad he could help you. And I did not say anything poorly about him during this time, during the whole investigation, this whole thing. I just said, I'm glad he could help you. I'm glad he helped your situation. That's my affidavit. Another person said, hey, this person didn't say, I asked her about the situation, and she didn't say anything poorly about him. She just kept her thoughts on the kids and didn't mention him at all. And so I have testimony after testimony that says she didn't speak poorly about him. She didn't speak poorly about him. I didn't know anything was going on. And then I have my official documentation that says I actually asked for him not to be prosecuted and sent to jail. I just asked for him to get administrative counseling. I asked him to get a formal reprimand. So it's literally like there's a paper trail. But I didn't ask him for his life to be destroyed or anything like that, because in the letter that I did write, which I was advised not to give, I wrote about the story in the Bible where it says, the servant goes and he owes the master such a great debt. And it says that, how can I exact, money from this man when I owe such a great debt myself? But in this parable, the wicked servant is forgiven a great debt, and then he goes and exacts. He tries to get his fellow servant thrown in jail instead. And I just felt, God's forgiven me of such a great debt. And he also says to love your enemies. That throwing him in prison wouldn't solve any problems, but getting him the help he needs and getting him counseling, and hopefully that he would repent and turn from his ways and join the rest, rehabilitate himself. I don't know. That's what I wrote. But I'm going to focus, now that I've said that, I'm just going to focus on how I was treated throughout this entire process. I'm not going to focus anymore else on that. I'm just going to read some of the stuff that was said about me. Because in my experience, we have this weird thing in our culture where people who say, hey, this happened to me. If that person's well-liked, it's victims are guilty until proven innocent. I have the letter that says I did it. I have a bunch of stuff, like a ton of stuff that proves, yes, I did it. But I didn't want to seek penalty. I just wanted to seek rehabilitation. I'm a big fan of rehabilitation. Okay, so I'm going to read this next thing here. Oh, and I did get a military protective order, have that. But there's just so many things that were said about me that were blatantly not true. Also, I have this letter that says, this letter was requested by Marciana Gillespie, and then from Family Advocacy, shout out to them. Family Advocacy, and it explains Family Advocacy Program. Marciana was referred to this program due to the allegations of sexual mistreatment where she was a victim and her husband was the alleged offender. And then it says the case went to the Central Registry Board on August. I think I've stated previously it's a Criminal Review Board. I said that wrong. It's the Central Registry Board. The purpose of this is to determine which referrals for suspected maltreatment meet DOD criteria. And it was determined that the case involving Marciana Gillespie, me, met the criteria for sexual maltreatment. There was treatment recommendations related to this case, and I stopped in March of 2022. So they also said, hey, and then it's signed. Yes. So I went through all of my processes. I went through all the channels, saying nothing. I try to follow Jesus, and when Jesus was led before, Sanhedrin, and he was met with so many false accusations, he remained silent. And since Jesus is who I follow, I remain silent. pretty much the whole time. But the letter that says he did it, that he wrote himself, this letter that says I met the qualifications for sexual maltreatment, bunch of stuff that says, hey, this person was the victim. Hey, this person was the victim. Hey, this person was the victim. I'm trying to change the fact that in society we go, I know that person. They couldn't have done that, so we're just going to treat the victim as the guilty party until you overcome my threshold, and we're just going to add to that burden. I want us to stop treating victims as guilty until innocent. And so I'm just going to try to say, hey, this whole time I said, I want to try to act in a scriptural way, but in the case that myself, I have been taken for granted, mistreated, slandered. I've been accused of slander and libel so many times, which is not factual because I'm reading the stuff that says, hey, she's telling the truth. Hey, she's telling the truth. But anyway, let's read this here. All right, so when I'm going through my trial, I'm going through all of this. It says, I'm sorry, I'm flipping through. Let's see here. But where is it? But I'm gonna read some things that were said about me, and just to show you how, when a person reports somebody, how they're treated and how they're slandered repeatedly, even if you are the one that says, hey, I don't want this person punished. Hey, I just wanted to acknowledge, hey, this bad thing happened to me and I'm reporting it, and I'm not trying to be a vicious person, but this happened to me. Let me see here. Alright, so in this affidavit written by my former spouse, submitted to the District Court, Douglas County, it says, I've been separated from my wife December 21, 2020. Immediately before and after our separation, I've been faced with numerous false and defamatory allegations from my wife in an attempt to derail my military career as a chaplain. In case you need me to reread that for a second, it says that the client does not wish to derail, like I have it in bold letters and official documents, the client does not. So this already is false. Derail my military career as a chaplain, that says impacted my ability to support my family. Recently, my wife made a public Facebook post that she tagged numerous organizations. Yes, I did, because I'm raising awareness for this. How the system works, how a person can report and end up being the villain in the story instead of the victim, despite a confession letter and numerous other things I have, and the letter I have that they found that I was sexually mistreated. Anyway, it says, I'm tagging them out of spite. All prior allegations she has made has been turned to be unfounded and dismissed. Not true. I said I didn't want him prosecuted. And I only wanted him to get administrative counseling, which he admits later he got administrative counseling. Let's see here. It says, my wife is a this is what has been said of me. My wife is a highly educated woman. She chooses not to work. Now, here's something funny, because this whole time, this whole investigation was going on, and I was pregnant with the baby from this night. And he goes to work. I just want to point out for a second, he went to work, and where do you think the kids were from 7 in the morning till 5 at night? I choose not to work, but somehow somebody has to watch the kids, unpaid. And I pay all the bills, which has been proven in district court. I paid all the bills this year, I watched the kids from 7 to 5, but I choose not to work according to him. A person with a master's degree in education has significant untapped potential. So this is what he says about me. He says, she's trying to destroy me. She's trying to destroy my career. In this letter, he says he forced himself on me, and he has a habit of deriding me to other people. but he's gonna fix that. But okay, anyway. It says, he goes on, attempts to slander me. He says, I'm slandering him, I'm being horrible to him. He does everything, he's so amazing. The baby came home and he took care of him. But my point to say is this. As the Bible says, by your fruit you will know him. In all of my documents, it says Marciana didn't say horrible things about him. Marciana said, I'm glad he could help you. Marciana didn't say anything about him to me anytime I asked. Marciana said nothing. In my official documentation from the Air Force, from my Special Victim Council, the council does not want to punish this man. The council, the person, the victim in this situation, wants him to get counseling, wants him to be a better person. She was found to meet the qualifications for sexual maltreatment. There we go. I'm reading right off of this paper. Anyway, so in all my documentation, it says, hey, I'm the victim. I really am the victim, really, really. But I didn't want to challenge this person. Now, in all his documentation, I'm this horrible, slanderous person, despite him having written a letter that said he did it. I'm this horrible, slanderous person that's trying to destroy my family and destroy the children, and I don't want to work, and I'm really making his life miserable because we are separated. And we were separated because he confessed to assaulting me in his own letter. He goes on. Let's see here. I will discuss the allegations that resulted from this conversation. He says that, we had intercourse, then the next day I was fine, and then the next day I said that I assaulted him, or he assaulted me. Then he wrote a letter that just to assuage my guilt, and then he goes on to paint me as this crazy person. He later says I'm bipolar. He says, I really think she's bipolar. And then he goes, and then he says that the pregnancy was a blow. It really was a blow to me because I said I wouldn't have any more children. And the baby came from him assaulting me, as he confessed to. And so he just goes on and pretty much blames me for having an adverse reaction to having a baby from assault. Alright, then he goes on, and he says, when my wife was in Kentucky, okay, so here's the deal. During this time, a friend was coming in from a foreign country and was having a wedding. And I previously, months and months and months ago, before any of this happened in November, had said I was going to come help her for her wedding. And so in December, I really needed the time away, and I went to help her with her wedding. And so he texted another chaplain friend and was like, my wife isn't taking care of us or our family, and she's sick, and, in the head, and blah, 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 and all of this because I went to go help the friend with her wedding that I already committed to. So this is what he's talking about. When my wife was in Kentucky, she called and to inform me that she lost the baby by miscarriage, and she was so cold and uncaring, and it devastated him. And said she apologized. I didn't realize that I would be so upset. Well, yes, I called and told him about it, but again, we both know this is the baby from the night he confessed to assaulting me, so I thought he'd be more concerned with my feelings than with his feelings, considering everything. But he says that I'm cold and uncaring. And so he goes on and on, paint me as this horrible person. Then apparently I go and I spend $8,000 on this luxury bed, and then I also go on this reckless spending spree, and I buy this fancy new car, and he just doesn't know what to do with me because, he got this military protective order for no reason. and he's investigated for sexual assault, and he just doesn't know what happened to me. And so I'm going to back up to say this. I let him have all the things because I was going through so much trauma from having been assaulted, and then I was being seen by family advocacy in their program, and I was seeing a therapist from the assault. And so I literally could barely take care of myself because I was going through fevers and shakes, and I was pregnant from this night, and it's this whole thing. And he is upset because he has to take care of the kids so much. And so it's this whole thing. And since I have nothing, I let him have all the things. He has all of the furniture, all the beds. My therapist said, go get something you've always wanted. So I went to the Sleep Number Bed Factory. And I got a Sleep Number bed for like $2, maybe $3 grand. It was $38 a month. It was cool. And I was laying on the floor, so I needed a bed. But in this affidavit he writes, I spent $8,000 on a Tempur-Pedic bed. Both facts, nope. I spent $2,000 or $3,000 on a Sleep Number bed because I had no bed. I was laying on the floor. And then he says, I could share the screen, but it's not important. I'll do another video later. And then he says that I went on a reckless spending spree buying a car. So newsflash here, I actually got in a car wreck, and it totaled my car. That was like a really crappy car. It was a joke. While we were married, everyone knew that car was crappy. He made me buy that car. It was a whole thing, and it always broke down. Anyway, that car was totaled in a car accident, so I went to Carvana, got a new car because I had no car. But in here, I'm this reckless spending spree person because I bought a bed. I had no bed. And then because I bought a car, and my car was totaled. Anyway, so I'm just painting a picture here for people to decide for themselves who actually is the real victim here. Let's see here. Yeah, so I get a protective order because he's continuing to do very abusive stuff to me, and I just can't take it anymore. He starts this weird rumor, and a lot of my story revolves around not even me, other people, that he sucks into this scenario because he has these weird thoughts in his head. And a lot of my case was centered around other people, and I try to be very delicate with their information. So anyway, but I have a military protective order, I have all this going, and it's like, hey, you confess to this? Okay. But in this affidavit, he says I'm crazy, there's no foundation, I'm just this reckless person, and then he wants to address my false sexual allegations, which in the letter that he wrote me, he confesses to doing, and he says he's sorry, and that it'll never happen again, and he realized how sinful he is. So this whole time, every time he writes, I want to address my wife's false sexual allegations, I'm just like, you mean that apology letter that you wrote where you said you did it? This is awkward. My false sexual allegations. Although you spent so much time telling in this saying what a horrible person I am and spinning everything and not actually saying really anything nice about me at all ever. Which actually you also confess to in your letter where you say you tear me down to other people and you're sorry for it, and that's not what a good husband should do. Anyway, so again, my point is not that. My point is this is how someone that's in an abusive relationship and someone that's trying to get out gets treated. So while he's sitting there and he's saying that I'm a horrible person, I go on a reckless spending spree for buying a bed because I have no bed, for buying a car. Oh, I forgot to mention, it's a 2014, so that's almost a decade old. But in his affidavit, it's a new luxury car that I can't afford because I have no job, because I spend my entire day not working, which is me watching the children like a stay-at-home mom while paying all the bills, which you can find in my district court transcript. Everything I'm saying you can be vouched for, because I try not to say stuff without documentation. Anyway, although he does want to point out that he did pay child support, even though I paid all the bills, my car insurance, his car insurance, my renter's insurance, his renter's insurance. I actually pay a large majority of the bills. Anyway, um, and so just this is like 13 pages of him just saying what a horrible person I am. Uh, and that he's so mad that the base has had some complaints because there's a chaplain working who supposedly assaulted his wife, and he can't believe why people are saying mean things to him because uh, he doesn't, understand why people would say mean things to him because he's so falsely accused and he's done nothing wrong, and I'm just trying to slander him the whole time. He's completely innocent. Alright, so that's pretty much his affidavit, and it's signed him, and it's dated the 15th day of December 2021. So a lot of that easily proven that's a lie. Anyway. And so here's that. But what I also want to address is how easily it's triangulated. That he roped other people in. This is a common thing. If you're in an abusive relationship, they would like to leave out all the parts that would make them feel that would make them look guilty, and just tell you a part of the truth, like, oh my gosh, I want you to do this thing for me, and then they'll manipulate you. They'll get something that they know from your life that'll make you like, hey, pull on your heartstrings and be like, yo, this is what's going on. Don't you agree with me? And you're like, that's happened to me in my life. Yeah, and then without knowing anything, you've been sucked in. So here we go. In my affidavits, it's just saying Marciana didn't say anything. Marciana is a great mother. Marciana helped me and my family this way. All of my affidavits read this way, and they just focus on me, how I've helped their family, and how I didn't say anything to disparage John. John's affidavits are a lot like, oops, my bad. I'm trying to leave out his name. Okay, so my ex-husband's affidavits are a lot like his affidavit. Let's go and look and see what his affidavits were like. Mine are just me. Marcy's a good mom. Marcy didn't say anything. And one mentions John said this. Oh crap, I did it again. He said this about her to me, because that's what he generally likes to do. Alright, so this person, oh, this is fun. Let me read this. Okay, so his affidavits. Again, by your fruit you will know them. So mine are just trying to focus on myself. Am I a good person? Am I a good mom? Did I disparage the other person? His affidavits, let's see here. Alright. She failed to get her own groceries. Let's see here. When she moved to her apartment, I'm deeply concerned about Marciana's unstable behaviors. Her unpredictable behavior and outrageous lies have caused a great deal of pain to so many people. Her seeming lack of disregard for her children and their overall welfare, as well as neglect of their basic needs, is a major concern. Marciana does like to do the fun things with her children, such as amusement parks, zoos, and parties. While this is good, I don't think she faces reality when things get difficult or mundane. She just withdraws and just quits. This person signs this the 15th day of December. So, just so we're clear, my affidavits don't even mention John at all, except for the one person that said what John had told them. His affidavits, you can see the fruit. You can see the fruit of his affidavits. Alright, next person for him. let's see here. Alright, so another person for him. My name is blah blah blah. He does this, XYZ, trying to leave out these people's identifiers because I don't want to destroy these people's lives. I just want to show you what it's like if you're trying to come out of an abusive relationship. They will literally throw a storm of crazy at you and say everything about you, knowing it's not true and that they're totally guilty. Here we go. Oh, look at this. I have met and interacted with Marciano Gillespie a handful of times. I've encountered their children, and this is based on his knowledge. He has personal knowledge of my marriage. Not true. I talked to this man maybe once when he moved in, when I brought them a giant basket of gifts, because we were supposed to be their sponsor. And they live kind of across the street from us. Alright. Blah, blah, blah. He's provided the lion's share parenting, which I've demonstrated clearly false. 75 I watched them. Also, every time he got called in by security forces, I had to watch them. Also, every time he had to do like a Saturday shift, I had to watch them. I pretty much had to watch them all the time, except for the few hours where they ate dinner and they slept. So that's false. Let's see here. We've had a rocky last year of marriage, yes, because he wrote a letter confessing to assaulting me. Let's see here. If you need to see that, you can just go to the beginning of this live. On December 1st, 2021, yeah, that's me. Marciano posted a very disturbing and inaccurate post against John. It was disturbing. She publicly libeled him. No, I didn't. And spread false information about the allegations she made against John. No, I didn't. And her role in the investigation and legal process. No, I didn't. She libeled him publicly. No, I didn't. Misrepresented facts about the legal investigation. No, I didn't. And legal actions taken against John. No, I didn't. She put his reputation and career at risk yet again with untruths. No, I didn't. Even tagged the First Lady. Yes, I did, because my goal is to get reform in Washington and the Pentagon, because the fact that victims become the villains of their own story is absolutely ludicrous. The fact that I got threatened multiple times, like, you could lose your kids, because I've seen cases like this. It's like a known fact that, abusive, manipulative people can steal the kids from the actual victim because they know how to work the system. I shouldn't be threatened with losing my kids for saying, excuse me, kind of been assaulted over here. Anyway, so yes, I did tag the First Lady. That part's true. News networks, and I did tag Offutt Air Force Base because that's the housing I was living in when it happened. So yes. He doesn't trust my judgment, and he fears what further actions I may take that might be more damaging to my husband and my family. Again, the man who wrote a confession letter to assaulting me. Okay. Alright, so, and then he signs it the 29th day of December, 2021. Alright, so, that's that affidavit. Let's go to the next one, shall we? Let's see here. Oh, good grief. Where were you? Oh, ha. There we are. Okay, this one, I'm not going to say it's my favorite, kind of my favorite, just because of the complete ridiculousness of this. Like, this man spends so much time talking about his own self. I'm not even kidding. Like, everyone else is like, so, this person, this is how, I'm this person, this is how I know him, let me get to the body. This man spends paragraphs on his own self. It's a little crazy why the district court needed to know this man's entire, life story. I don't know. Hello, my name is blah, blah, blah. This is my title. I'm super amazing. Sorry, I'm going to try not to be petty here, but it's a little crazy, this person. How he knows my ex-husband. He has direct knowledge of all of the events leading up to this. Like, literally, he knows everything. This is a lie. He knows, because I've talked to this person. He knew maybe 1/10 of everything. And because I was like, did you know this? No. Did you know that? He only knew, like, this small, tiny event. Anyway. I'm aware of the sexual assault allegation by Mrs. Gillespie, and my office participated in the interviews in the investigation. I'm just going to pause this for a second. If this person was involved in my investigation, by the time I get finished reading this, you tell me if you thought it was a fair investigation. Just going to throw this out there. Also, I have my letter stating that I didn't want him prosecuted, and I wanted him just given a letter of reprimand. I didn't want a court martial. I just want him to be changed psychologically, because there's some serious issues there, especially with the level of lies and manipulations he did with so many people. Anyway, and the fact that, like, I tell people this all the time. I look in scripture and I'm like, hey, if this man was a plumber, this man was a carpenter, but if I'm looking at Bible and how Jesus, the Son, and God the Father treated people that bear his name, our struggle is real. They don't really take kindly that much to, anyway, people with this set of character traits. Okay, so let me keep reading. It says, I'm aware of the sexual assault allegation by Mrs. Gillespie, and my office participated, blah, blah. Oh, sorry. Try not to give personal identifiers away. He does not believe this to be true. Then he goes on about how awesome he is and his abilities. Oh, how he really appreciates the time he spent with Special Forces. It's like a play-by-play. It's like a CV of everything he's done. Anyway. Okay, there's a fair amount of scrolling here. Oh, he's misspelled career. Anyway, in his professional opinion, John Gillespie is not capable of doing the very thing, I'm going to paraphrase here, doing the very thing he confessed to in his letter. As a matter of fact, he's painfully honest and will overtell things that potentially harm him. Actually, he doesn't. What he does, and he's done this the entirety of like 13 years of our marriage, what he does is he runs to people in advance to get ahead of the story and tailors the story to make him look like the penitent victim, and he leaves out a lot of details that would make him look actually guilty. But that's another thing we'll talk about in the videos I'm gonna release about my life. This is what actually goes on, and this is the small amount that you see. So, he's seen him do this numerous times. It's not tied to his faith, and he's not willing to be deceitful or dishonest, and have proved multiple times in his own affidavit where he blatantly lies about a lot of stuff. So in an effort to strive to be honest, he will share the smallest details of everything to ensure complete transparency. When his wife first made the allegation, let me just remind you again, I just read off the letter where he says, I forced myself on you and I talked poorly about you to everyone. In his own handwriting, in his own letter. When I made the allegation, he came and told myself and the deputy. Oh, nope, stop. I guess that's a personal identifier. He told this person that he had done this thing. So, just to set the stage, my ex-husband says, "Hey, I did this bad thing," and this person that knows him was like, "You're too honest. You couldn't have done this thing that you're actually telling me you did." I even stopped him and warned him not to say it. So I got issues here, just slight issues. FYI, if a man ever comes to you and said, I did this horrible thing, just believe him, report him, don't say, you're too honest, you didn't do this thing that you're confessing to doing. Just feel like that's weird. Okay. Alright, it says that he's, okay, anyway. Yeah, alright. He's so aptly, brutally honest. Alright, about the events leading up to it. He even admitted that he had been drunk. Yeah, he was really drunk. Like, I had to drive him home, and he was hungover the next day. That I felt very confident that these events were not true as alleged by Mrs. Gillespie. I'm not going to read the letter again. You can just listen to it at the beginning. Okay, so apparently, at the time, December to March, we were working on our marriage. They offered me help. Apparently, I was this creepy stalker person, and I was actually, this part's super funny, really is funny, because this thing that's happened that he's talking about, Um, I wasn't even friends with this person at the time. And I'm going to read some stuff in a minute. But it says, apparently, instead of believing the thing that was actually written in a confession letter that actually happened, he chooses to believe this thing that actually did not happen. It was just a bunch of rumors and a bunch of speculation and a bunch of crap that honestly got started because of my ex-husband. But we'll get to that at another time. Anyway, so what actually happened was I really was sitting there and I was really being a stalker to this other person. And where does it say? Oh, yeah. And so, okay, so here's another thing. If you knew anything about me when I sat in church, since before this person even moved to Omaha, I sat in the same spot. Like, sat in the second row, at the end, sat there the whole time. And I have videos to prove it because I took videos in church. So I sat in the second row in this one spot. That was my spot. Like, church people are weird. We just sit in the same spot. Just always sit in the same spot. Funny part is, you should hear this next part. Okay, so after being a stalker to this person, it says blah blah blah. My husband says a bunch of lies about me and this person. I'm not going to read those. Apparently, I sit in the spot I'm sitting in church just so I can, mess with this other person I'm stalking. So forget the fact that before this person even moved to Omaha, I was sitting in that exact same spot. We're not going to mention that in this affidavit. We're going to say I'm sitting in that spot so I can be a weird stalker to this person and mess up their life. And then, okay, I will say I have recorded conversation with this person, and this person called me bitter, and it's recorded. And they called me disrespectful because I called them out for being unprofessional and being ridiculous. So I think they kind of have an extra grind with me in this. I will be honest about that. Because I was like, you're a man of God. You're not acting. Anyway, I'm just like, that's not cool. I just feel like pastors and preachers should not be so quick to anger. But I found a lot of them are. Anyway, so we had this disagreement, and I was moved from the spot that I sat in church, and I was put in the back of the church. That's what he said. She would sit in various places, but would sit directly, blah, blah, blah. And I was making things uncomfortable for this person I was supposedly stalking. And then he can't officially say it, but he did ask me to leave. And then I left for 3 weeks because not only am I going through the trauma of the assault that he confessed to, now I'm this creepy stalker person that can't serve in church at all. I can't sit where I've been sitting for the last few years. I'm asked not to stir. Like, apparently I'm this evil person that's a creepy stalker. So I've got like so many wars I'm waging at this point in my life. After 3 weeks, I literally couldn't leave my apartment for these 3 weeks. Like, it was just so much. Like, my nervous system was completely overwhelmed. Being attacked by a ton of people because I'm not saying anything, but other people, this other person I used to be married to, is running around to everyone saying a bunch of crazy stuff about me. So a lot of people are coming at me. After 3 weeks, I come back to church again because I finally managed to get myself out of my apartment. And then he consults the judge advocate general to get me to not come to church. I expressed my concerns to the judge advocate at the time about her simply not attending because of my mental instability. Y'all, for real. Have you noticed a common theme here? My ex-husband says I'm mentally unstable. The one after that said I'm unstable. The one after that said I'm mentally unstable. The one after that said I'm mentally unstable. I just feel like there's a common theme here. I was advised because of the sexual assault allegation that I could not ask her to not come back to the church. It would seem like reprisal. Mind you, this entire thing, completely made up. I actually wasn't talking to that person. And the person that supposedly annoying, I got text back and forth. He's like, hello woman I love. I'm texting her and she apologized for not being there for me when my husband almost died of COVID. It's like this whole thing. So none of this is actually true. It's just a bunch of stuff that happened to me and was said about me. Um, anyway, I finally stopped coming to church when this person that I'm supposedly stalking refused to speak with me, which was not it. I told these people exactly what was happening to me, and they were like, we don't care. Anyway, and I, again, text validation, back everything up, because I don't like to say stuff without documentation. Apparently, I post numerous things that's not helpful, and I've caused a lot of damage to his reputation, just so we're clear. I say that I've been abused for the entirety of our marriage and that he is an addict. This is truth. Also, this is truth. I also have this documented audio recording, writing, this is whole thing. I document everything. And let me stop this for a moment to say, if you're watching this and you feel the need to document everything the person you're married to, that's an abusive relationship. I do because this is called gaslighting, and I'm going to do an informational video about this later. But if you're married to someone that says stuff and does stuff and then later goes, I didn't do that. Like, he writes in this, about the whole bed thing. And then I have this video because I record every time we talk to each other like a person. He's like, I never did that. I never did that. I'm like, you really did. It's literally an affidavit that you sent to the courthouse. Anyway. But if you feel the need to record and document everything your spouse or the person you're with says, that's not good. Anyway, so this person keeps going on. He tears me down. He's like, my friend's so amazing. He couldn't possibly have done any of this. This person is mentally unstable. This person is horrible. And so my point is, all of my affidavits, even the official documents from the U.S. versus Captain blah blah blah. It says, hey, I want this person to be reformed. Hey, I don't want punitive measures. Hey, all of this. Now, after he is found innocent, which is not the case, I didn't want him prosecuted. I just wanted him to have, a reprimand, and I wanted the official documentation that this happened to me. After all that happened, it was like free reign to just like, oh, this person's crazy. I didn't actually do it. Never telling them that he wrote a letter saying he actually did it. So anyway, this person just goes just full hog. Like, the only thing that's actually true in this whole thing is his CV at the beginning. Anyway, but my point is, and not to destroy these people, it's just like, hey, my affidavits, I really did try to go with the Bible, reconciliation, repentance, not tearing people down. Over on this side, we have, she's crazy, she's crazy, she's crazy, she's crazy, she's crazy, she's lying, she's crazy, she's destroying her family. I'm just saying, it's a whole thing. Just like, I don't get it. Like, if you believe that the truth will set you free, and, you will know them by their fruit. This person over here said, I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to disparage you. I don't even want you court-martialed. This person over here is like, let me tear you down. Let me not tell people a bunch of important information, and let everyone say that you're crazy. What kind of fruit are we showing on which side here? It's just, I'm like, I'm going to do some informational videos. I'm going to do some about gaslighting. I'm going to do some about, triangulation. Because I don't want people to be sucked in, hoovered, a bunch of other stuff. But I wanted to get on here because I feel like talking, this is my face, like, I'm going to be saying, here's an informational video, and one of them's an animation that's super cute. But it's not really a face. And a lot of these people, like the one that's like, I only met her a few times, but I totally feel like I should say she's crazy because this person is super nice. And I just feel like it's super weird that people are so willing to write official affidavits with knowing like zero information. Like I bet none of them even knew about the letter he wrote that says, in plain writing, where is it? I'm sorry. Okay. This is, okay, in case you didn't see it. See, I've got it all tabbed. This is all the things that were said about me in all the official documentation. See? Rebuttal evidence. Anyway, see the size of this. All the official documentation that says, hey, you know all that stuff that was said about me? It's actually not true. In fact, there's a ton of evidence to support that it's really not true. And so they're all just lies. It was all just a smokescreen to be like, I need to work ahead of time to make sure that you think this person is a horrible person so that you're on my side. And that's kind of what it's like. There's that sharing my story. I have this heart now. I can't stop. I'm not gonna stop. Because you wouldn't believe it, but there's so many pastors' wives, exact same thing. They were like, hey, my husband, and the church was like, death, witch, heretic. They get shunned, and then what happens to their husband? Relatively nothing. I'm sorry, brother. Can't believe they said that about you. A lot of us. There are so many of us. Like, what's up with that? Just gonna say, like, no one ever actually came at me and said, hey, this was said about you. Here's the proof. Nope. It was just, hey, you're crazy. This could never happen. He's so nice. Like, there's nothing. I have all of this. I have literally so much of this. All of this. Why are we so quick to be like, that's my friend. He couldn't have done this, so let me go and run and tear down this person. Let's see what someone else told me. And honestly, they were just so taken. I think it's a shock. Like, you know this person. You love this person. And so you immediately want to, like, run out and attack the other person. And they were like, you're a Facebook thing. And I've changed it since then. You say you love your enemies, but I don't think you're super loving. I've prayed about this. They wrote this nice long letter. And what it came down to is, honestly, their just heart was hurting. But nobody really has come back to me after saying all these things that were not true about me. They weren't like, hey, I'm so sorry. You were hurting. You actually were a victim. And I just made it 10 times worse by saying all these horrible things about you that weren't even true. Like, you're a horrible mom. I got that so much. So much. Apparently my son doesn't think so, according to yesterday, because he's super cool, like super amazing, and he thinks I'm super amazing. But a bunch of other people thought it was super okay to be like, you're a horrible mom, and you're saying all these horrible things. And then a bunch of other people that just thought we could throw around. Just saying, I'm just like, this is so weird. Like, where do we get into our church society where we thought it was okay just to bash people because we've deified pastors? I'm going to say it. I feel like we've deified pastors. Like, they can do no wrong. And it's even super weirder. And I'm not going to mention a bunch of... Okay, I might mention a few things. But, like, just look at our pastors nowadays. Like, Ravi Zacharias or the whole Matt Chandler thing. Whatever that was about, it's kind of weird. Like, super nebulous. Didn't really say a whole lot. But my point is, we're in a rush where, like, we hold them up on such high pedestals. It's like a hero complex that when they do something wrong, we need to put them back up there because it attacks us. It's like, let's rush. They did repentance. Yay, let's put them back up there, you know? But if it's a layperson, that layperson would have gotten so much guilt and, like, you know, so much shame. And, like, shame on you, layperson. You did this horrible thing, let's ostracize you. Pastor does it, you rush to repentance, get them back in the pulpit. I just feel like that's a weird church thing. I feel like it is. Why do we need to deify pastors? They're just people. If someone says this pastor did this thing, you don't need to rush and be like, no, he didn't, he's my friend. You must be a horrible person. Like, 0 people came to me and said, I'm sorry I said those horrible things about you. No, nada, nobody. Just silence, just crickets. just remember, at the time, I had a confession letter that says, I forced myself on you. Also, I say horrible things about you to other people. Also, I haven't protected you our entire marriage. Also, like, all this other stuff that I've admitted that I have had a horrible marriage with you. I have this confession letter. I didn't say a whole lot. And I was actually pregnant with a baby from a really amazing baby. Almost got aborted. Super amazing baby. Also had congenital heart defect that he was gonna die on birth if we didn't have something to do. And so, just gonna say, if you're just in a rush to like knee jerk an affidavit, just might want to think about it, because do you really know all the facts of the whole situation? Now, there's this whole other aspect to my investigation that made it all go wonky. And I didn't say anything in my investigation. I said, my husband said this about me. I can't say anything about that, and I can't say anything about that. Because, and this is a segment where I will turn to the gospel. Have you ever met people that have been in church a long time, but don't really fit in the churchy people segment? Like, they've been at church for a long time, but you don't feel like they really know the love of Jesus? That's all I'm going to say there. Because I met two people. Honestly, my investigation would have gone a lot smoother, except we had to drag these other two people in, and it was a whole thing. And I'm going to straight up tell you right now, a lot of the time, I love these people like Jesus loved Judas, or Jesus loved the centurion that nailed him to the cross. But love is love regardless. So, I met these two people, and got to hear their story. And let me tell you, there's not a lot I don't know about them. I know so much, which is why it was hard doing my investigation, because they're like, do you have anything to prove that what your husband said is not true? And my head said, yes! And my heart said, don't say anything. Because here's my deal. Pastors' wives, they know just as much as pastors. They do. People share so much with you. Like, people share their entire lives with me, like, so much. Sometimes I'm like, they get up. Like, I'm trying to, like, hold it all in, but I'm like, that was really a lot. I was not expecting that. And so, my husband went and had to drag their mess into our mess. It was a whole thing. And so, do I regret loving them? No, not at all. They need to love so much. So much. I will never regret saying I love you to anyone, because I do. I'll never regret loving horrible people. I don't know. I'm finding myself more and more, like, I want to pattern my life after Jesus. And Jesus had problems with religious people all the time, like, so much. And it says Jesus came, we always talk about how he came to be the friend of sinners, how he sat with the publicans and sinners. And I found myself, like, there's a grill and pub downstairs, and they kind of don't know what to do with me, because I'm not the grill and pub type. I'm like, I love you. You need to get your life right. Anyway, sometimes they go the other direction, but there's just so much brokenness, and I just find my heart drawn to brokenness. Like, I go walking around, I can point out to you 2 or 3 people. I'm like, hurt, need Jesus, you need a hug. So, the fact that my investigation had to go was pretty much, honestly, around 2 other people not even involved that my husband dragged in for other reasons, which I have a recording for that too, which would clear up a lot of things. Because I wanted this conversation recorded. It's pretty much boiled down to, I knew on the front end that there was, a lot of work. But on the back end, I thought it's kind of a Saul Paul situation. If God could change Saul, a murderer, into Paul, then I knew, in this situation that I'm referencing without trying to say anything, no one had taken the time to specifically encourage spirituality, and I saw some hidden gifts, and I still believe God's gonna do something great. It's an impossible situation, but that's the message I had in my heart that whole time. I was like, someone needs to encourage the greatness that God has created in this person. Blah blah blah. Moving on. Not my ex-husband. And again, on recording, it is recorded. My ex-husband was like, this person's super unspiritual. They're dumb. Look at how dumb they operate their family. Look at how much they don't know. Look at how they're not spiritual. Take every opportunity to literally shred these whole people to pieces. And that's kind of where we parted ways, because I was like, these people need our help and they need our love. And did they do a bunch of really not cool stuff to me that nobody knows about? Yes. But I didn't go into trying to be friends with them for what I could get out of it. I just knew they needed the love of Jesus. Having a conversation with this person, I learned two things. One, on the very front end, I was like, I don't think we can be friends because they're kind of prickly. And then that person, without even thinking, was like, please don't abandon me. And my first thought was, I totally want to, because you're kind of prickly. I'll say prickly. But then my second thought was, there's a lot of hurt and trauma for someone to say that. And so I decided to stick it out. And I made a promise right then and there to never abandon them, because my God never abandoned me. So there's that, So that put me through so much. But on the other end, God used those exact people to help me get out of my abusive marriage, because they were like, oh yeah, that's wrong. That's weird. They showed me some stuff that no churchy people, I'm always around clergy, pastors, ministry people, churchy people. No one ever was like, the only person, because I share something with them, and they were like, yeah, that's wrong. That shouldn't be happening. And so they were definitely the flint that started my journey out of abuse. So, as unspiritual as my ex-husband wanted to continually paint them out to be, he couldn't control them. That's probably why. They really helped me out. They really did. And as much as they've done to me, a lot, so much, I'll still love them. You know why? Because God never stopped loving me. Where do we get in the world where we accepted hate? You could say, I hate you, F you. You could say anything negative about anybody. Nobody's gonna even blink at you. You start saying, I love you, let me give you a hug. People think you done lost your mind. When did we let hate and fear take over our world? When did we stop being kind to people? When did we stop going after the publicans and sinners? You know what? I'm going to say this, ruffle a bunch of church feathers. I absolutely love hanging out with the LGBTQIA community. Plus, because there's always, more identities I don't know about, but I don't mind being informed. You know why? Because I listen to their stories. I've never met a group of people that have had more trauma and need more love in their entire lives. Am I upfront? Do I go, I think it's a sin? Yes. That aside, I think lying's a sin. So the fact that Christians won't be friends with people just because of their orientation, but will be friends with liars, be friends with literally any other sin. But this sin, we can't be friends with those. Oh my gosh. Y'all could learn so much if you just sat down, you found yourself a rainbow flag and went and sat down and just listened. You know how much Christians treat those people like absolute crap. What kind of... I'm going to say this. I think that today is kind of a lot like Jesus' day. If he came today, we would call him Satan, because he went and hung out with publicans and sinners. And you find Christians going and engaging, rainbow flag people. I love you. I do. I love you, rainbow flag people. Someone has a pronoun they, them. Y'all just lose your mind. I'll meet them where they are. I don't mind calling them they, them. It's not going to affect how God loves them. So anyway, my point being, y'all, stop reversing victims and villains. stop making victims guilty until proven innocent. Hey, I'm abused. No, you're not. You're crazy. I'm pretty sure that's not how it works at all. I'm pretty sure this entire book I have here says that I'm actually telling the truth, because I've been documenting, let's see, 20, pretty much since the beginning of 2020, 2021, like January. I'm never gonna stop documenting until this point, until I die, because it's just, someone that repeatedly refuses to take accountability for literally anything, you just kind of always have to record and document for your own personal sanity. People are like, hey, you said that wrong, that's libel, that's slander, and you're like, no, it's not. Let me flip to it for you. So anyway, I'm just hopping on here to say, hey, I wanted to read a few things out loud in person, show you that I have the actual paperwork. Like, I love seals, I love signatures, I love literally everything. Someone's like, hey, she's just ranting because she got divorced. Also, fun fact on that one, I got filed on by the most aggressive lawyer in Omaha. That's recorded. Everything I say documented, so you can mark down. It's either documented in a recording, in a document, or a district court. So you can fact check me, but it's true. I don't like this. It's kind of a contention in our marriage. I would only say things that were fact checked, and my ex-husband would be like, I'm thinking this, so it has to be a fact. Not disparaging him, it's just literally, whatever he thinks, he treats it as fact instead. And I would say, did you tell people that's just your opinion, or did you present it as fact? And he would say, well, it's my opinion. I was like, well, you should let people know this is my opinion, not treat it as a fact. Anyway, so, but yeah, you can come at me, you can be like, hey, you said this, I don't think it's true. And then I can privately show you, here you go, actually true. But I'm going to try to change this conversation. I'm going to try to change a culture that says we got to make victims go through the gauntlet of proof when they're already suffering with, like, PTSD. They're already suffering with chills and shakes and trying to escape. And, the whirlwind that's happening because everyone feels the need to, like, jump in and call you a crazy person, They don't even mind. They'll even go after your own family. They'll even turn your own family against you. It's a whole thing. So, anyway, I just felt like before I started dropping my informational videos, I'd get on here myself, personally, my face, all my skin in the game, and say, alright, so here's my book. Here's all the stuff I have that proves that I'm not a crazy person. Although, many people tried to paint me as crazy. And my ex-husband put in a thing that he thought I was bipolar, which is weird considering he's not a psychologist. You kind of need to be a doctor to diagnose somebody. But it is what it is. I want to hop in here and say, hey, I'm going to read these things to you. I'm going to tell you how people treat victims of people they like. They're like, I like this person, so I need to tell you a bunch of untruths about this person so I can make the person that confessed look better. The sad part is, and everyone I talk to, it's that because they were cons. I was like, did you know this about the situation? Well, no. Did you know this about the situation? Well, no. Did you know this about the situation? Well, no. But they went and were willing to write an affidavit, not knowing a lot of stuff. Someone comes to you and's like, do this for me because I'm cashing in my emotional chips. Ask for some actual evidence. Be like, so, the person you want me to tear down, you got some evidence? You got, like me, I don't want anyone torn down, but I got a crap ton of evidence. Look, you know how thin a piece of paper is. Look at this. Oh, that's like a few pieces. Okay, here we go. Do I want anyone torn down? No, I don't. But do I want to advocate for domestic abuse victims? Yes. Do I have an actual honor that says the person I'm accusing actually did it in their own handwriting? Also, yes. Like, this is my whole thing, my whole time. I'm like, hold on. Let me see where it is again. Alright. Hold up. Of course, he came back and said I forced him to write that. Like, honestly, I would never let someone force me to confess to a felony. even if I was trying to make their feelings better. Alright, hold up. Okay. Let me look. Nope, that's the protective order. Oh, you would have thought. Oh, okay. I'm skipping around here. But those other people my husband dragged into our situation, I was trying to protect them, but he made himself look like the victim again and me the villain in that situation. I want you to read what this person wrote to me. All right, June 20th, 8:49 a.m. Because a lot of people told me they're like, that person's just like a jerk and they're selfish. All right, 6:20, 8:49 a.m. We've known each other for like 3 years and we've been friends for a few months. They wrote, and honestly, they've done so much stuff. They've lied about me. They've done a lot of crappy stuff. But the person who wrote this is the person I've always hoped, and I've told a bunch of people to pray for, would eventually come out one day. Let's see. It says, as I've been reading the daily scriptures the last few days, they all seem to have the same theme of being renewed, being new in Christ, and resting in Him, and I can't help but ask the questions. And this makes me so excited. When people ask questions in their own soul, oh my gosh, I'll be sitting here doing a praise dance. I'll be looking like Tabitha Brown. Anyway, alright, so it says, I've been asking the questions. See, I'll show it to you just so you don't think I'm making crap up. Alright, what does being renewed look like? What does it mean to be a new creation? How can I live in a way that represents the truth? Perhaps thinking of these can help remove the doubt that rises up in us. The fear of this person's past be put to death and a new horizon in the arms of Christ. Have a blessed day. This person, whom my husband thought was unspiritual and dragged in the middle of our marital mess, wrote this to me. And I've never stopped praying for them and that they become the man that, the person that God created them to be. I always thought God had a great purpose for them. And the more I tried to encourage them in spiritual things, the more that devil Satan tried to drive us apart. Because I thought they could do great stuff for Jesus. But that person told me no one had ever encouraged them to. Because all people see is skin deep. Nobody wants to take the time to love prickly people anymore. What's wrong with us, church? What is absolutely wrong with us? We just want to be, we just want to spend time with people that are easy. We want to go out to eat afterwards with the same 3 people we've always eaten with. We don't want to go across the street. I read a post, and it's a good post, by someone recently in my Facebook feed talking about how a family moved to the inner city, blah, blah, blah. And in church we're like, wow, look at that person. They're a super Christian. Which means the norm for church nowadays is that we stay in our own ivory towers and we don't interact with sinners anymore. Sinners, I say sinners because one of my favorite titles for Jesus is Friend of Sinners. We don't go out there, we don't reach the people Jesus came to reach. He's always talking about how he's going out to the lost. We don't stay with the lost no more. We just like to interact with the same church people we don't want to touch lepers. We don't want to do none of this stuff. We just want to go to church, soak up the sermon, do our churchy stuff, kick it outside of Planned Parenthood. Don't do that. I don't care what you do. Don't do that. That's horrible. That's terrifying. You know what? A good thing that I learned from all this, when I wanted to abort my own baby because I was like, I can't do more kids. Definitely can't do a kid that reminds me of the night that this all happened. Love that baby. Such a great baby. Anyway, but I'm saying, I totally had to come to Jesus meeting over abortion over that. I get it. I totally get it. I do. Because I was there. I was so there. If I'd been in a state where it'd been like on every street corner, my baby wouldn't be here. Only place it is here now is Planned Parenthood. And I was like, I can't do that. Anyway, nothing against Planned Parenthood. I'm not even going to get in that debate right now. My point was, I just couldn't go there for myself. But I understand. I have this literal understanding now. I'm like, I get you. waving signs about murdering. That's literally not good. Never has a person like, I'm gonna stop. I don't think I'm gonna abort this baby because someone's harassing me and telling me what a horrible person I am. That's no. Okay. So when did the church become like the Pharisees? Were adding all this stuff for making people feel guilty and downtrodden. And you have to read this book. You have to exegete. I feel like we've totally forgotten 1 Corinthians 13:1 right now. Totally. I'm big preaching right now. Woman preacher totally would have been burned in Massachusetts. I'm gonna make that a shirt. Anyway, sorry, just squirrels, rabbit trailing. But 13:1, let's wake up, church. Let's wake up, preachers. You can exegete the mess out of something. You could understand Greek and Hebrew. You know what you're afraid to do? You're afraid to go to the gay bar. You're afraid to talk to someone who has they, them as their pronouns. You know what you're afraid to do? You're afraid to get the teen mom. And when someone in the church does, they're like some kind of Christian hero. They're the exception, not the rule. When did that become the case? Like, these people should not be exceptions. The exception to the rule should be like someone's not reaching out to the world. That's weird. That's so weird. So anyway, that's my thing. Pretty much my whole story is my husband confessed to assaulting me. Everyone didn't believe me. And the people that needed love the most, I protected because even though, I don't know, I'm still waiting to see. The story ends differently for different people. It could be Judas, but it also could be Peter. See, we would forget that. Judas and Peter did the same thing. Judas sold Jesus out, hung himself. You know what Peter did? Totally sold Jesus out. They're like, you know that guy? He's like, no. Dude, I got bad words. I did not know that man. Then there's a rooster, and he's like, You know, people can totally sell you out. Doesn't mean that God's not still gonna use them later. That's the truth right there. You know what he did too? He's like, Peter, do you love me? I asked this very question of these very people. Dead in the face. I was like, do you love me? Because no one wants to go that deep anymore. No one wants to be like, hey, do you love me? Because asking other people if they love you, if you love them, that's just weird nowadays. Anyway, so I'm going to be dropping some educational videos I made. One's going to be talking about hoovering, which is where a person apologizes for something they know they've done, and then they completely are doing the other things behind their back, and their apology's not real. They're just trying to get you back in. I'll be dropping one about gaslighting, but this is not my goal in life this year. My goal in life is to raise awareness, so I'm going to be doing that piece. But on other news, I'm super excited. I'm going to be starting the podcast. I'm going to be doing Comfort and Sunshine stuff. I'm going to be doing a lot of new stuff. I'm going to be trying to drop some new hoodies for our kids and men and children. I'm going to be dropping them for Valentine's Day. And I'll tell you some of the phrases that are going to be on there. Notes. Alright, so I'm going to be dropping ones that say love never fails. Oh, I got a kids one that says priceless on it, because I keep reminding my kids, here's the deal. A lot of people get into abusive relationships because they have self-esteem issues. If you know your worth, you're just like, yeah, I'm not doing that. No, thank you. So I call my boys my young kings, so I want them to act like a king. I'll tell them their mama gonna go upside them if they ever treat a woman disrespectfully. But also, I want them to know in their own worth, they do not have to act the fool, because they're kings. You know, they're not court jesters, they're kings. So I got one strapping for kids. With priceless on it, I have Show Up, Choose Love. This one, I got this from Toby Mac. Well, listen to that song, I love it. Do the next right thing, you know. Love since the beginning of time, that's for everybody, so I'll probably be wearing that one a lot. Get some for my kids and stuff. I'm going to have a shirt. It's kind of like, if you've ever seen the Free Hugs Project, and he has just a free hug shirt, I'm just going to have a shirt that says I love you on it, because when people are walking by, so many people need to hear that. He would love first, and I'm gonna start speaking on the topic how to be loved in a hateful world. So I'm gonna try to start doing some public speaking because, you know, I used to hide my story, but then, thank you, Mr. Matthew West. With my story, your glory, my pain, your purpose. It's kind of like Joseph. God used everything in Joseph's life to get him to where he's gonna be. So I'm not gonna hide my story anymore, not at all. And so I just want you guys to know this is the official paperwork I have. I'm not just making stuff up. Like, every time that everyone else that called me crazy was like, she made a Facebook post, she's crazy, she's destroying someone's life. No, kind of got a lot of evidence here, solid, concrete evidence. Whoop, whoop. And then it says, by their fruits you should know them. All mine, where I say I don't want him punished, I just want him reprimanded. And then all my affidavits where it just talks about me and how I didn't talk about him, you know. And on this side we have she's crazy and tearing him down and rampant lying. Like, he lied on the stand so much in district court. You can, honestly, I don't know if you can access the transcript of that. Anyway, my point is, it's in the official records. You may have to take my word for it, but there's so much, like, I was literally like, was there a protective order issued against you? And he was like, no, on the stand. I have it in my hand. He literally said it in his affidavit and in his interrogatories, but man was like, no. Anyway, not the point. My point is, you judge the fruit how you see fit. But I'm getting on here and saying, I went through proper channels, I did my due diligence, and people still calling me crazy and saying I'm the villain in this whole situation. Truth will set you free. You know, a man reaps what he sows. So if you want to sow to destruction, you're going to reap destruction. I prefer to sow to love. I prefer to love my enemies. That's another thing that everyone thought was crazy when I was going through my whole process. They were like, I don't know what happened, because it's kind of the way the system works. It's air gapped. Like, I was talked to maybe 3 times during the whole entire thing. My special victim counsel took care of everything. So honestly, I don't know what all happened there. But they had it all rammed up because the military is notoriously horrible, so horrible about prosecuting domestic violence. Also, they're sweeping under the rug. Also, like you heard in that one affidavit of that person that went on and on and on about themselves and how they worked with special forces, and then proceeded to lie about me the entire rest of the way. Like, you'll have an abusive person, but then you'll have top cover. You know, and so they'll like contact someone who knows somebody who knows someone, and that person will get off. It's a whole thing. So, because you could work with someone and that someone could end up in the Pentagon. Moral of that story is, military is kind of awful at prosecuting stuff. And even if you do get it up, you know, stuff can happen, or, you know, whatever. I'm not saying that happened in my case. I said I didn't want him prosecuted. I said I wanted him, you know, reprimanded, get a letter of counseling, a letter of reprimand, which, surprise, surprise, he got, even though he framed it that he was innocent. No, I just asked for you. Anyway, so I'm gonna get off because I gotta go get my kids, but that's all I gotta say about that. And look forward to my informational videos in the future. Be loved, be blessed, I love you. Remember, if you don't got love, you don't got nothing. Peace out.